Hi guys, this is O-Level Chemistry, paper 12, June 2022, question 11. The table describes two properties associated with metals. Which row shows a property, which row shows a correct reason for the stated property? Okay, so the property in option A is malleable, and it says that the reason for malleability here is the layers of metal anions can slide over each other. No, anions are not present in the metallic lattice, so this statement is definitely wrong. Option B, again malleable. And the reason is the layers of metal cations can slide over each other. Yes, in the metallic lattice, you have cations, which are the nuclei of the metal surrounded by delocalized electrons. So this is the metallic lattice that I have just shown over here. So we have layers of cations that slide over each other. So option B is correct here. Option C, conducts electricity. Reason, metallic structure contains mobile anions. No, it contains mobile electrons. We have just seen the metallic lattice. And D also says conducts electricity. And the reason is metallic structure contains mobile cations. No, it is not because of the mobile cations. Cations are fixed in their place. It is due to the mobile electrons that metals conduct electricity. So option B is the correct option for this question. Question 12. Aqueous silver nitrate reacts with aqueous potassium chromate to give a yellow precipitate. What is the ionic equation for this reaction? Okay, the first one is 2AgNO3 plus K2CrO4 gives Ag2CrO4 plus 2KNO3. There is nothing wrong with this equation. This equation is 100% correct, but this is the chemical equation for this reaction. And they have asked for the ionic equation. So because this is not the ionic equation, option A would be incorrect. So option B, 2 moles of Ag positive plus 2 moles of nitrate ions plus 2 moles of potassium ions plus 2 moles of chromate ions. Now the problem here is the ionic equation will not contain all the species. It will only contain the species that are taking part in the reaction. So this makes option B incorrect. Option C, 2 moles of Ag positive and 2 moles of chromate ions forms silver chromate. This is the ionic equation for this reaction because potassium and nitrate are spectator ions here. They are not the ones that are responsible for the yellow precipitate. It is silver chromate. Option D, silver plus chromate gives silver chromate, but the problem here is chromate has a charge of -1 and silver has a charge of +1. And that is not the case. Chromate has a charge of -2 because it had two potassium ions attached to it and both have been removed. So equation C is the correct ionic equation. Equation D is another ionic equation, but the charges given are incorrect. So this makes option C the correct option for this question. Question 13. What is the relative formula mass of anhydrous sodium carbonate? So the formula of sodium carbonate is Na2CO3. So now we need to add up their AR. AR of sodium is 23 and we have got two sodium atoms. AR of carbon is 12. AR of oxygen is 16 and we've got three oxygen atoms. So 23 into 2 gives us 46, 12 remains as it is, and 16 threes are 48. When we add up all of these numbers, we end up with 106. So the relative formula mass for anhydrous sodium carbonate is 106, making option C the correct option for this question. Question 14. What contains the greatest mass of solute? Okay, so we need to calculate the mass here. So we will have to process all of the options. So let's begin. So first of all, the formula to calculate mass is equal to number of moles into mr. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to find out the mr of all of these substances. Okay, mr. MR of sodium hydroxide is 23 plus 16 plus 1, 40. MR of sulfuric acid is 2 plus 32 plus 64. This gives us 98. Next, we have potassium 39 plus hydrogen 140 plus 16, 56. And next we have HCl 35.5 plus 1 is 36.5. So now we have the MR of each of these substances. Next, we will calculate the moles. How do we calculate the moles? We do the molar calculation, right? Concentrations are given and so are volume. So now what we are going to do for sodium hydroxide, we have 1 mole per dm cube. So 1 mole in 1000 cm cube, how many moles in 100? So the calculation would be 100 upon 1000 into 1. This gives us a mole value of 0.1. Next, for sulfuric acid, we have the sulfuric acid is 0.05 mole per dm cube. So 0.05 moles in 1000 cm cube. How many moles in 500 cm cube? So this would become 500 divided by 1000 into 0.05. And the mole value we obtain in this calculation is 0.025. Next, now they have given volumes in dm cube. So instead of using 1000 cm cube, now we are going to use 1 dm cube. So 0.1 moles in 1 dm cube. How many moles in 1 dm cube? Answer remains 0.1. And for the last one, 0.01 moles in 1 dm cube. How many in 2 dm cube? So this becomes 2 into 0.01 upon 1. And this gives us a value of 0.02 moles. So now we have moles and we have already calculated the MR. So now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the mass. This would be MR into N. So 40 into 0.1 is 4 grams. Next is 98 into 0.025. This gives us a value of 2.45 grams. Next, we have 56 into 0.1, giving us a value of 5.6 grams. Next, we have 36.5 into 0.02, which gives us a value of 0.73 grams. So the question asked us, what contains the greatest mass of solute? So the greatest mass that we have calculated is 5.6 grams, making option C the correct option for this question. Question 15. How many tons of aluminum oxide are required to produce 27 tons of aluminum? So, for the molar equation, Al2O3 would produce 2 moles of Al. So, the MR of Al2O3 would be 27 into 2 plus 16 into 3. And this should give us 2 into 27. So, the sum total of these values comes to 102 and the sum total of 27 into 2 comes to 54. So the question has asked us, we need to produce 27 tons of aluminum. So what mass of aluminum oxide would be required? So we will divide 27 by 54 and we would multiply this by 102 and this will give us a value of 51 tons. So the correct option for this question is option B. Question 16. Dilute sulfuric acid is electrolyzed. Hydrogen gas and oxygen gas are produced. Which row correctly describe what happens? Okay, they're asking oxygen is produced at. So oxygen is produced at the anode because hydrogen ions are reduced at the cathode. Reduction takes place at the cathode and oxidation takes place at the anode. And oxygen is produced when water is oxidized. Water is oxidized to oxygen gas. It produces H positive ions and electrons are given off. This takes place at the anode. And at the cathode, we've got 4 moles of H positive ions accepting 4 moles of electrons, producing 2 moles of H2 gas. We have balanced the molar ratios. So this reaction takes place at the cathode. So oxygen produced at the anode, options A and B have been selected. Hydrogen is produced at the cathode. Both options have cathode here. So we'll move on to the third column. Concentration of acid is decrease or increase. Okay, so we had dilute sulfuric acid, and the part of this solution that reacted was water. So if we remove water, so the concentration of acid increases, not decreases. So this makes option B the correct option for this question. Question 17. Aluminum can be extracted by the electrolysis of aluminum oxide dissolved in molten cryolite. Which reaction takes place during the electrolysis? Okay, reaction at the anode. Anode is where oxidation takes place, and reaction at the cathode. Cathode is where reduction takes place. So Al3 positive ions are reduced to Al at the cathode, and oxide ions are oxidized to oxygen at the anode. So anode will not have aluminum present, and cathode will not have oxygen present. So options A and B have been eliminated. Okay, now let's look at option C. Oxide ions on losing 2 electrons forms an oxygen atom. No, a molecule of oxygen formed. So automatically option D becomes correct. And in the case of aluminum, Al has a 3 positive charge, not a charge of positive 1. So option C is wrong, making option D the correct option for this question. Question 18. Which reaction is exothermic? Combustion of methane. A combustion reaction is always exothermic. Combustion cannot be endothermic. Cracking of hydrocarbons. Cracking of hydrocarbons takes place at higher temperatures. So it is endothermic. Decomposition of water into hydrogen and oxygen by electrolysis. Electrolysis requires energy to occur. So electrolysis is also endothermic. Photosynthesis in plants. Plants need energy in order to photosynthesize. So all the other options given are for endothermic reactions, making option A the correct option for this question. Question 19. What is the correct balanced equation and enthalpy change for the complete combustion of butanol? So we have combustion here. Combustion is an exothermic process. If we look at options A and option C, the sign for the enthalpy change is negative, which makes them exothermic reactions, whereas for options B and for option D, the signs are positive, making them endothermic reactions, eliminating options B and D as the correct options. Now we have A and C remaining. So we are talking about combustion of butanol. So the molecular formula for butanol is C4H10O, and the general combustion equation here would be plus X plus Y upon 4, but we have an oxygen atom, so an oxygen atom will result in subtracting half from X plus Y upon 4. This would be moles of O2, giving us X moles of CO2 and Y upon 2 moles of H2O. Now here, the value for X is 4 and the value for Y is 10. So let's do this working. 4 plus 10 upon 4 minus half is the moles of oxygen. So 10 upon 4 is 2.5. 4 plus 2.5 minus 0.5. Half is 0.5. So if we minus 0.5, we are remaining with 4 plus 2. So the value here is 6. Moles of oxygen is 6. In option A, we have moles of oxygen as 5. In option C, we have moles of oxygen as 6, making option C the correct option for this question. But let's look at the values of X and Y upon 2. X is 4, so we have 4 here, and Y upon 2 is 10 upon 2, which is 5, and we have got 5 over here. So option C is definitely the correct option for this question. Question 20. Bromide, and hydrogen ions react according to the equation shown. Some apparatus for measuring how the rate of this reaction varies over time is suggested. Which apparatus is suitable to measure the rate of this reaction? Okay, so let's look at the apparatus. We need a gas syringe. A gas syringe is there to collect gases, but this equation does not have any reactant or product in the form of a gas, so a gas syringe is useless here. Next, we need a balance. A balance is needed to measure the mass of something. So all reactants and products are in the liquid or aqueous state. So balance is not required here. We have a pH meter. A pH meter is required to note the pH of the solution. So in the reactants, we can see 6 moles of H positive ions. So these 6 moles of H positive ions can result in a change in pH when the reaction is taking place. So a pH meter can be used to investigate this reaction. So option that is correct would only have 3 as the correct answer, making option D as the correct option for this question.